Angie Vacorja. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 199, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. And as is customary, I begin with a prayer for peace. Gumara Siacán fud na crinne. Gumara Siacán in our Jaili, agus in our Jirha. Gunari Lin Lena Cuj Garmacha. Gaumij Buichas Jeev, Jeha Chivdaka, Spirit Chivdaka. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the holy mountain, with thanks to John O'Donoghue. So let me see where you're all from today. Leslie and Kevin in Sligo. Somebody is enjoying a bout of warm weather. That's Liz in Wyoming. Anyway, let's see where people are from. You're all very, very welcome. Let me see where people are. Chesapeake, Virginia, windy Gisborne, wet and windy, warm, wet and windy Gisborne in New Zealand, Wyoming, Calgary, what is it? Spring blizzard hellscape of Calgary. Well, we had a lovely weekend for our equinox ceremony here in Kilkenny. Sky was blue, and it was that lovely, the first kind of caress of warm air. And then it's cold again. Yesterday was really cold. Well, about 6 degrees. That's cold for us. So it's mixed weather. I suppose typical for March. Berlin, lovely. South Wales, where are other people from? Lots of wind. This is in Wyoming. Brilliant. Anyway, you're all very, very young. Oklahoma. Okay. Wilshire. Sunny Texas. Wow. Warm, sunny Texas. Anyway, you're all very, very welcome. And we are going to the US. And because he's in a camper van, I actually am not too sure where he is. Let me introduce my guest this evening, Kevin Pennell. Kevin, you're so welcome. I've actually forgot to ask you where you are. I can't hear you. Can you unmute?
I've done this before, really. Yeah, we're in an area that you could call North Central Florida, which is north of Orlando. Everybody knows Orlando, I say with tongue in cheek. And I just looked it up on our little on my little app here, and let's see what the weatherman says. The weather person says 85 degrees. That's Fahrenheit, which would be what, 30 something Celsius.
Ooh,
and
that's warm.
Yeah, it is, and it's partly cloudy skies. And as we used to say in radio a long time ago, there's a 50% chance of rain, which means it either is or it isn't going to rain. So, but yeah, we've been here a bit, and we're actually going to be leaving probably the next couple of days. But this is our little home away from home, as you can see. I've been tempted to pick up the laptop and take it around. I actually wanted to do this outside, but we are very close to a highway, so we would end up with a lot of traffic sounds. Yeah. But it's lovely here. We come down pretty much once a year, but this is my home state. Reared and raised in Florida, and I left some years ago. I could go off very easily. I'm going to be quiet now.
No, this is all about you. Actually, Sean, who's in Calgary, he says, that's too bloody hot in Canadian measurement, what you're dealing with.
Well, I can totally appreciate that, because I remember when I grew up here, it was rare that we would see 3 digits. And in the past few years, because of global warming and such, it's not unusual to see three digits in Florida. And you couple
Yeah.
that with humidity above 85%, and you actually have dangerous weather for people that are uh, getting on in years and so forth, because they'll reduce the temperatures in the malls by oh an atrocious amount. Where you end up having a mall temperature of 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you walk out in 90 degrees, and people would literally keel over because of the
Wow.
heat. Yeah, so we live in the western mountains of North Carolina, and it is a lovely 60 something degrees up there today and 30 something degrees at night. I'm good with that.
So, yeah, Morgan says, "Oh, looking forward to hearing about van life. It's something I've always wanted to do, having done a lot of camping as a kid." Now, but before we get to that, I just want to know about your background. So, you're from Florida, and then we've got somebody from Japan.
Ah,
Lovely. You're very, very welcome. I'm always amazed at, where people come from, and we even have County Meath in Ireland as well. It's lovely. So, so you're from Florida. What brings you? So tell me a little bit about your background.
oh my. Have you got an hour or two? Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we do. I grew up in Florida, and I would often tell people I lived in Orlando, BD, and they said, "Well, isn't that B? No, BD, before Disney."
Okay.
And I graduated high school in there, but my father was in a business that required him to be on the road quite a bit, and we would travel from time to time to town. He was in the theater business, and it was interesting to say the least. I grew up on popcorn and potato chips and all that kind of wonderful healthy food. And I think in my late teens, early 20s, I decided no, it was time to leave, like a lot of young people will do. I want to leave. And I think my first venture was I went to Texas, but that was only for a bit of a visit. And then I came back, went to college. My intertwined with all of this, part of my background was I had 35 plus years off and on in broadcasting, radio broadcasting, a lot of journalism and stuff. Hence the reason why I actually have a podcast and so forth. And I enjoy doing that. I enjoy talking with people about what their life is, just like you're doing with me, Eimear.
Hmm.
And it's a joy. But anyway, so I ended up going to Bible college, and I got my degree in theology. And people will look at
Okay.
me and they'll say, wait a minute, you're a druid, and you have a degree in theology. How does that work? And I said, well, we all have many paths up the mountain. We've heard that. It's almost like a cliche. And my pathway just simply took a little bit of a turn, and I did that for like 10 years, and gave me a real good experience in life. I have no regrets. I would tell you that right off. My life has been varied, but I have no regrets over anything that I've done. And it's a wonderful experience when I look at that life is a school. But I left that, like I said, after 10 years.
Hmm.
And Emer, I will say this, when we kind of dovetail that into some of the life as being druid, uh, after I joined with Obod, I would say that I looked back and I realized that I've always been a druid at some level. I just never put the title on it because I've always loved the outdoors. I've always had a real tight affinity to trees. And go figure this, particularly oaks. And I grew up around live oaks and what we call turkey
Okay.
oaks. And it was nothing for me to go up and hug a tree when I was a teenager. And tree huggers, when you're back in the 60s, people would look at you saying he needs to be taken to a hospital, mental type. But anyway, so I'm moving along through life like that, and I'm really enjoying stuff. But I've always had that affinity to the natural world, and I've always talked about, even when I was in church, people would say, "Well, we're here in a church. What do you talk about your church is outdoors?" I said, "Well, that's the truth of it." Because that's where I'm the most comfortable. But yeah, so I moved up to Western New York. I pastored a church up there, came back to Florida, and it just goes back and forth quite a bit. But then another change took place probably in my mid to late 40s, and um, I think during the time that I was doing the ministry work, and even before that, I was really drawn to the idea of doing counseling and working with people, helping them get over difficult times
Mhm.
and so forth. And some folks felt that I should have moved on toward doing a degree in psychology. And that, I suppose, if I wanted to say a regret, that might be one, that I never
Okay.
pursued that completely. And so I moved along through there. And then in my 40s, as you might be able to identify with, as well as anyone else that's in counseling or psychiatry or psychology or even human nature, anywhere between 35 and 50, a big shift takes place, typical.
Indeed. Yeah.
And it's like we talk about being, it's the empty nest, or it's the loss of a loved one, or you name it, something happens. And with me, it was in my late 40s that I found what I would call my true passion. And that is also, I've been able to trace far back into my teenage years, that of being what I like to call a healing facilitator. And that kind of drew me into a lot of different possibilities. I
Mm.
started looking, even before the Bible college days, I looked at stuff like, I was actually looking at paganism, I was looking at Wicca. I looked at a lot of different things and never really settled on anything in
Mhm.
particular. But it was a fascinating journey. And then, like I said, in the 40s, I found that I really liked helping people. And my beginning journey, believe it or not, was energy work. Uh,
Okay.
I went into Reiki, and I've been teaching Reiki for over 25 years. I'm a licensed massage therapist now. I would typically joke around with people. I said, even on my website at one time, and I said, no, it's a negative, I'll pull it off. But I said something to the effect, if you're looking for a nice fluff and buff massage, don't come to me, because I'm the clinical person. I like to stretch
Yeah.
people, and I like to turn people into pretzels, because I found that stretching really does help to release stuff. And then the journey continued, Eimear, because I found still, um, I was still looking at all these different other possibilities, and I went into things like shamanism. I went into I'm a I do hypnosis. I love doing past life regression, life between lives work, things of that nature, and it's all very exciting work. And people would say, you have so many different things that you do, and I said, well, the way I look at it, if somebody comes to see me for whatever the need might be,
Mhm.
I'm here to help them. And if it's body work, if it's I will say, for the safety part of a litigious society, if it's counseling, I call it coaching. Anything along those lines, I'm here, and I'm here for you, because I truly do believe that when people come into our lives, and we've often heard this, there's a reason why. There's a reason why we are doing this right now.
Mhm.
There are no accidents, and people come into our lives, they come into our paths for a reason, and we need to figure it out and just let it be, because at some point we will find out why we are together. I'm going to be quiet for a minute, because I can just go on and on and on. People talk to me, they say I'm an electric talk machine. Switch me on and switch me off. So I'm going to switch myself off.
Okay, I just have one question. What is the name of your podcast? A few people have been asking.
Okay, just down at the bottom underneath my name, it says Toward a Better Life. And it's available. Sounds like my little shtick that I do at the beginning and the end of the podcast. You can find it on all platforms.
So it's
Interest.
Toward a Better Life podcast. Okay, there you
Yep,
are. Great.
yep.
I'll just
It's
put it in the.
on every week, and there's and everyone that's watching this right now, there's someone that you might know that has been my guest before, and she's on the other side of the screen.
That was what, a year ago, was it? Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
close to that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And so Eimear's been on. I've talked with Philip, and I've talked with Dave, Dave the Bard, some other folks with Obod. So I would say this: I'm always looking for people to want to chat. And they say, "Well, geez, I've never been interviewed." Well, that's the difference, because I like to talk with people. I don't interview them, and I've
Mhm.
always I've always done that, Eimear. Even in broadcasting years, I always love to talk with people, because if I don't have a set group of questions, there are no limits,
Yeah,
and it
yeah.
can go anywhere.
Brilliant. Tell me, how did you find Obad?
That's a good story. Back in 2002, but if you
Mm-hmm.
look me up on my profile, you say, wait a minute, he didn't join until 2024. That's right. But in 2022, we were working, my partner Vicky and I had a store up in Maine, and I was doing a lot of shamanic work and doing Reiki and doing, hypnotherapy, things like that. And I said, oh, I wonder what this is all about. Because I was very interested in the term druid, and no
Uh-huh.
one could actually answer the question for me the way I was hoping to get answered, because I had a litany of possibilities. One, of course, in the far way off in the far distance, they're going to say, "Oh, they're evil," you know, or they don't know what they're doing, stuff. And it's just, no, I'm sorry, that is not a good answer. And I just kept looking. So I did the little search, and Obad popped up. And what was attractive to me, honestly, the first time I read about it was somewhere in some of the information that was there, and maybe you have an insight that I've missed, but something was said, in the many, many ages gone by, and we all know that follow this path, Druidry has been around for tens of thousands of years. And it was nothing unusual for a healer or a druid or a wise person, whatever term you wanted to give. There was usually someone in the village that fit that persona. But the interesting part of that was that same person was often, they could be a leather worker, they could be a steel worker, say a steel, a blacksmith, they could be, whatever, but they were the healer on the other side of on the other side of the table. You would go to that person because they would help you with herbs, they would help you with
Mm.
counseling, or whatever it may be. And that was the beauty of it. So anyway, I saw that, I said, that's so interesting. So I could do the work that I do and maybe be a druid. And then for whatever reason that shifted, and I didn't join. There's another regret. I didn't join in 2003. So come along some years later, I said, I really want to look at this again, because it keeps coming back. And the reason it kept coming back to me was because I had a friend of mine give me a book some years ago, and it was historical fiction, and I love historical fiction. And I think it
Okay.
was, the title of part of the book was Druid, and it was the story of Germanic Druids. And it was so cool because it was historically quite accurate in different spots. So I read through that, and then I picked up, oh, what's his first name? Eimear, Michael Green.
John Michael Greer.
Thank you. John Michael Greer. John Michael Greer's book came up, and I read through that, and I said, this is getting interesting. And then I have to give credit where credit is due. I listened to Druidcast,
Yeah.
and that pulled me in even more, and it just hooked me. And the next thing I know, I'm joining Obad, and that was June of 2024. And
Oh, cool.
it's, I love this. It's home. It's family. What we're doing right now, it truly is. I mean, we are thousands of miles apart, and yet we are enjoying a true fireside chat. And my goodness, the time is flying. So that's typical. But that's kind of where it went. And since then, I've been doing a lot more work. I'm in the process of, I have finished the Guers on the Bardic grade, and I'm in the process of applying to moving toward Ovate. And I have a wonderful mentor. He's very, very helpful, and that's a great program that we've got. I'll say that.
Mm.
So I'm putting it together slowly. So
Oh, wonderful. So what? Okay, so you've been in ministry for so long. You've been broadcasting, and you've done all
yeah, yeah.
various healing modalities. how would you say, or what impact has Druidry had on your life that maybe the others haven't? So what?
Great.
Maybe I don't know if that's a fair question, but
I feel it's almost the same thing, Eimear, as I was looking at is in the process of applying for the ovate grade. And it makes you step back and say, what have I learned through the Bardic grade? And I love the fact that we look at that as bards, ovates, and druids, that there's no hierarchy, but you have to start someplace. And I've always been a proponent of create a good foundation. And that's what's happened is I found that foundation. And like I said at the beginning of this conversation, I've always had an affinity to trees. I've always had an affinity for wildlife. I've always had an affinity for the natural world, not just an affinity, but a real connection. And if it's possible for that connection to go deeper in the past nearly 2 years, it has. It's gone even more so, deeper yet. They were asking, my mentor was talking about, and even as you get toward the end of your Bardic studies, you need to do a review and find out what has this done for you. And I started looking at some of that. I said, it's not just a matter. What part of my path included following the Native American ways for almost 10 years. I
okay.
wrote a book some years ago about a dear friend of mine who's since died, but he's gone to the next level. But it's called Two Feather Spiritual Seed Planter, and he was a Penobscot, which is a northeastern woodland group. There was like 5 tribes up there, and among that group, and around that same time, I really got an interesting connection where I would say with the spiritual world. I have seen one of my guides. I have seen them. I'm going to say up close and personal, and that was around the same time. And I felt a very deep connection, of course, to that one. I've also had a very deep connection to hawks and wolves. And what has that got to do with a deeper connection? When I went out to get my initiation for my Bardic level, Eimear, I went into the grove that I created beside our home in North Carolina. And I went into that spirit place. So I began in the physical grove, moved into the spirit grove. The first thing that happened was my two primary guides, my two primary guides met me.
Okay.
And they said, "Where have you been? And you're always welcome. We're always here." And I have heard from them. I have felt their presence before.
Brilliant.
But it was like homecoming. And it was wonderful. And it was a completely different experience. I say different in the sense of being much deeper. And if you wanted to look at if there is such a thing as spiritual marrow, that's where it ended up, and that's where I feel now. I walk outside, and we're staying in a park, and there are several hundred acres here, and we go out and we walk our dog, and I go out and I pick up on some of the smallest things, and I will see little inchworms, and I'll see little tiny flowers, and I'll see these things, and I'll stop because, Eimear, I have felt this before, and anyone that's really connected with this, you walk by a tree and you hear the tree, you feel the presence of the tree, and you walk up and you touch that tree, and it's all the time now. It's not just every now and again. It's wait, what about me? What about me? So it's a much deeper connection than I've ever experienced in my whole life. And see, I'm only 35, and if you believe that, I've got some land to sell you.
Okay, well, I'm 37 on the inside, so it's internal age is where it's at. So
You're still an elder to me. Okay.
still external age is nothing. So, so are you in a forest or are you in a kind of an open space?
Where we are
now?
right now,
Yeah.
we are not very far from a forest. We're in a clearing area, and it is called the Ross. Let me see, Ross Prairie State Forest, Ross Prairie State Forest. So yeah, we're very close to that, and there's a lot of It's prairie because that's what it is. There are several sections out here as you walk through it. But for
Okay.
anyone that's familiar with how this looks out here, it would be termed as a hammock. That is typical of what you would have deciduous trees along with conifers, mixed in with a lot of other fungi and things of that nature. That's how it works. We have some really interesting things out here. One of the things that I think about is, like, for an example, they call it resurrection fern. Are you familiar with that?
No, tell me about it.
Okay, so resurrection fern, it's a miracle and it's magical in and of itself
Go
because
on.
it grows. It doesn't The tree doesn't need to be dead, but typically they really do. They being the ferns, they really do like oaks.
They're like a
And
good
what?
red oak. Is that it?
Yeah, yeah, they love a good oak, and they will grow all along the length of it. And if you have a computer and if you look it up, it'll tell you resurrection fern. So what does it do?
Yeah.
Most of the time, like right now, if you walk out there, because we're in semi drought right now, we could always use a little bit more rain. But what it'll do is it'll curl up a little bit and it'll turn not quite as bright green as it can be. Why? Because it's retaining all of its moisture within its being, and it's
Okay.
going right back right back as low as it can. It's almost like it's gone into hibernation, but it's not. Is it an epiphyte? I would have to look that one up. Um,
It
it's
depends. And so an epiphyte is my understanding, I hope I'm right, Nimi, is like a fern that grows on a tree and needs to grow on a tree. So it probably is.
Yes, yes, it is a neophyte. Yes, absolutely. But it isn't. But it's not a parasite. It's
Yeah, yeah,
symbiotic. Definitely
yeah, yeah,
symbiotic. But anyway, so then you would have several days of rain, and all of a sudden, that dreary kind of almost brownish green. All of a sudden, if you look at the names, how we have them here on our identifiers, they will turn that bright. They will get
wow.
They're just immaculate, and they'll just pop right up and they're just so happy. I was going to say too, this morning I went out there. We have another thing out here. It's called deer moss. Deer moss is gets its name because deer love to eat it, and
Go
deer
on.
moss works the same way. That deer
Okay.
moss will get crunchy at this time of year, and it's been that way all the times we went out. This morning I went out and we had a little bit of fog around, and it was enough moisture that it was the softest
Yeah.
little fungus that you ever saw. It was like I don't know, it's like picking up a beautiful little fuzz ball, and but deer love it. An interesting side of that is too is that the only time a deer moss will grow, it loves to grow in areas where the air is pure. If you
Yeah.
have too much pollution in the air, it will not grow. So, yeah. But
I see. We,
you've got deciduous trees, you've got conifers, you have palmettos, but that's a typical hammock, and that's what Florida is. There's a lot
oh,
of hammocks
lovely.
around Florida.
So, because I was in the woods today and there's moss in the trees, and I know it goes crackly when it's dry and soft and warm, or soft and moist. But I have a fallen elder tree in my garden, and it grows jelly ears, and I get a crop all year round because normally fungi that are edible, or uh, their season is, we say, October, November here, and these
Mhm.
grow as long as there's enough moisture. So I pick them and then I dry them myself, so I have them. But I just love to see them when you see so I had this tree. I don't know how long an elder tree lives, but it's there for a while and it fell, and now it provides me with food, which
Ah,
is just lovely.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Go on.
I was just waiting for another question, but I just it's this type of thing that I've always enjoyed when I talk about that connection with the natural world, and that's why it all dovetailed so well for me when I moved into Druidry. There was a time that I wrote for it's part of that bardic stuff. I say in the
Ah,
sense of always enjoying I say doing the chats with folks on radio and so forth. But there's a certain amount of writing in there. And like I said, I wrote the book. And there was a time that I was a columnist for a local magazine down here in Florida. It was mostly scientific. It was called Florida Oceanographic. I don't know if it's still around, but they dubbed me as the guy that would do the natural history type and destination type articles. So I would find these little out of the way places in Florida, and I would go visit them, and I would find so unique and such beautiful splendor that are seen in the simplest areas. We are not too far. We're like 25 miles, which is 30 something kilometers from the West Coast, and we're actually going to go there tomorrow and I'm going to be looking at some Indian mounds that are over there. There are
Okay,
6
lovely.
mounds, and I'm going to guess they are probably, I could be mistaken. You have the Tequestas and you have the Timucuan natives, and they have not been in Florida for over 300 years. There were like 5 tribes, but they have the burial mounds that are over there, and there's like six different mounds that are over there, and they've done some
Wow.
archaeological digs over there. But we're going to go check that out tomorrow. But I would check places like that out, then I'd write about them.
Oh,
And
lovely.
it's amazing what's out here. I'm not quite as well versed, I think, in the North as I was in the South, but there's so much edible stuff out there, and we have been involved before, like use the terminology primitive skills, and we start fire with sticks, and we build
Yeah, yeah.
debris huts, and we forage, and we do. One of the things I left out of my little curriculum vitae was did a 4-year study in clinical herbalism,
Oh, very good.
and so I was fascinated the other day, and we had mentioned it. We had talked about this a couple days ago, Eimear, that I did my my ritual for spring here at the campground, and we look in our books, and we say, "How am I going to do a ritual out in the middle of nowhere in a camper?" Well, you can do it because you can find what you need
Hmm.
when the universe presents it to you. So I went out and I found myself an area, and I decided I'm going to do this. And I found a new herb. And don't put me on the spot. I have to try and look it up on my phone. But the really cool thing is if you've ever heard of something that is it looks very similar to German chamomile, but it's called pineapple weed. And
Yeah, we have it growing here.
okay, so
It grows here, yeah.
pineapple weed here, you have to be very careful with it because it typically grows very close to roadways. And if I'm foraging, I tell people you want to try to stay at least 75 yards away from any given roadway or walkway for obvious reasons of possible pollutants. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
this one was borderline, and I said, "Look, it's pineapple weed." It wasn't pineapple weed. It's something completely different. And according to what I looked at, because it has almost the same flowers, um, it's loaded with antibiotics, and it's
Wow.
growing like crazy out here. And I said,
Beautiful.
for the idea of the seeds and so forth, I want to honor the land. So I put together some I had found some acorns. I said that's close enough. So I created a little pot, and I created a little thing, and I did that on the east, and it was great. So you
Beautiful.
can do it. All I did is we always have some type of smudge with us, and this time it was just white sage, and I gathered together the white sage, and I had an abalone shell, and I took that, and that was my centerpiece. I lit the sage and began the process, and then I called in the 4 quarters and had a wonderful little ceremony. And during that ceremony is when that little flower presented itself, and I said, I have to honor that flower. So I found
Beautiful.
something new. Yeah, yeah.
That is absolutely wonderful. Nimi says, I heard hearing about ancient mounds on Florida coast that appear to continue below current sea level. Do you know anything about that?
They, keeping in mind that Florida has gone, I'm going to say it's almost like a wave. because there are times where it is dry and it's times when it's not. Right now, it is not.
Oh,
It is drier. And so, yes, there can be mounds that are out there like that, because at one time it wasn't underwater. It was above the land. So yeah, yeah, they are there. You can find some. I've also been a scuba diver. Figure that
okay.
out because I was in Florida. But I grew up scuba diving and I was like 13, 14 years old. I can talk
Mhm.
about stories with that. But at any rate, you can go out and you can scuba dive and you can find artifacts from thousands of years ago that are out there, as
Wow.
well as, of course, the shipwrecks from 300 to 400 years ago when they were starting to come in to colonization of Florida.
Wow. So where you are now, what's the animal life like? Do you have wild animals
Oh
where
yeah,
in the
yeah.
woods near?
Well,
What have you got
well,
near where you are?
I'm one of the wild animals, but anyway, we have there are deer, there are armadillos, there are possums,
Yeah,
there are squirrels. The dog goes crazy with the squirrels.
I bet.
We have a fair number of snakes. Vicky, my partner, found a snake the other day. It was a beautiful rat snake, and I have no fear of snakes. I have respect for them, but I don't have any fear of them. But yeah, we have snakes, we have insects, we have mosquitoes large enough to carry off small children.
Yes.
But yeah, so it's divergent, and of course, how can you not mention about alligators and crocodiles? And people might say that, well, crocodiles, they're not in Florida. That's an African thing or a South American thing. There is a Florida crocodile. They are
Oh,
rare, and they're down in South Florida where they keep
oh.
them.
So
Um,
you're in the north, are you?
I'm in North Central, right?
Okay.
We're about 75 miles north of Orlando. I am near Ocala, if anybody knows that. I've got one for maybe some folks that might be watching this. If you go way, way back to the galaxy far, far away, there was a guy who played Tarzan. His name was Johnny Weissmuller.
I remember.
Okay. That was filmed at Silver Springs, and I'm about 20
Oh,
miles from Silver Springs.
oh,
And
well.
a piece of humor is, you remember all the different scenes, and of course they have all of the little chimpanzees and they have all the
Yeah.
monkeys and everything. Well, they were able to contain them during the production of that back in the 30s, but somebody made a mistake and they literally let the cage open by mistake. And now there are hundreds of monkeys living along the Ocklawaha River, which runs into Silver Springs. So they have to be
Wow.
very careful. Hmm.
All because from the 30s when they were making that film that they let
Yep.
not the cat out of the bag, but the monkey out of the cage.
Yeah.
So
Whoops.
we have a Florida. I don't know. Are people from Florida Floridians? We have Mary Lowe. She's in Florida, and she says the monkeys are still here, still there.
Where is she?
I don't know. Mary, put it in. Where are you? Wow, that's North Florida. Oh, that's
Oh,
somebody else's North Florida. That's Scout AK. So there's a few people from Florida here
okay.
tonight.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's quite an adventure, and people ask me. They said, "Why did you leave Florida?" And this is when I moved up to Maine back in 1998. That was the last time that I actually lived here. And I told him, I said, and back then I said, I could give you 13 million reasons why, all of which have 2 feet. And you wait for you wait for the cloud to disappear over their head to figure it out. But there's way too many people here. And if
Ah,
I were ever to move back to Florida, I would probably go from pretty much where we are north. Um,
okay.
just because. So
So
yeah.
Roger is Southwest Ocala, and Mary
Okay.
Lowe is Brooksville, and somebody else is Panama City, and
Okay.
then by Croom State Forest. That's where she is.
Okay. So Southwest Ocala, why don't you just come over and join us for dinner? Because I'm not very far from.
That's Roger. That's Rogers
Yeah.
in Southwest Ocala. Oh my God. So
Yeah.
anyway, it's and Cara Cara Sue says, I'd be nervous about going to Florida due to the extreme transphobia and ableism.
Hmm.
How is it where you are?
I'm trying define that for me. I'm sorry.
I think it's now seen Florida very conservative, anti-trans, of
Oh,
course.
trans. Okay, sorry. Yeah, yes, I get that. And unfortunately, you're going to find that a lot in some of the areas that are south, and that's unfortunate. But um, there are some areas that it's fairly safe that you could go, and I would just be mindful of that.
Hmm.
Um, I would, matter of fact, I would say that most of your metropolitan areas here are less likely to be adverse to trans. They're going to be more open to trans, as well as, like, I'm going to say, like Jacksonville, Miami. But then you have the other stuff that goes with that. But there are some communities in in the northern parts of the state that are more open. They're easier to get along with. I say easier to get along with. They're more accepting of
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Wow. And of course, I mean, the stereotype knows that people retire to Florida.
yeah.
So, um, so is it like I mean, you said there's too many people there. Is it like is the let's say the age ratio, is it biased in favor of elderly people? Do you have um
I would say it's leaning still that way. A lot more older folks than younger
why is
folks.
that? What was the draw for elderly people to retire there?
I it's for one thing, it's warmer here than it is in the Midwest in the wintertime.
Ah,
When
okay, okay.
when I brought Vicky down here, and Vicky was a ninth generation, not was, she still is, but Vicky's a ninth generation Mainer, and
Okay,
she had never been further south than Virginia Beach. So
okay,
she had no idea about how warm it can be in February. And so I
okay.
brought her down in February, and we've been coming down ever since.
You've gone very soft.
Yeah.
Troy has a question. Have you ever hiked the Appalachian Trail? Doesn't it start in North Florida and it goes to Maine?
It starts in Georgia and it goes to Maine. It starts very close to Stone Mountain. Have I
Okay.
hiked the whole trail? No, I have not. Have I hiked portions of it? Yes, I have. And it's a wonderful experience. If you have not done it, just to kind of plug the podcast that's on right now, I've got a person that is on this current episode. She's actually from Australia, but she talks a lot about hiking and that sort of thing. And I would tell you the same thing. If you have never done anything like that, do your research ahead of time. Make sure you do all your preparations, because something that can hopefully be a wonderful experience can turn around like that. And you need to know what to do. But it's Appalachian Trail is a wonderful experience. Yeah,
Wow.
I would say that one of the other parts that you were talking about, what's different for me, if I can switch really quick,
Sure.
for
Yep.
Druidry, is when I talk about the deeper connections I've had. Is in doing hypnotherapy and doing guided meditations and things of that nature, like we do even on Tea with a Druid and so forth. Um, the spiritual connection has shifted there as well. Um, I had somebody on a podcast not too long ago, and they were hypnotherapist, and they had talked about how they're doing hypnotherapy via Zoom, and I went, how effective is that? And he said they did some research and they found that people actually do a better job as the recipient of hypnotherapy via Zoom than they do in person. And the reason why they say that is because they're in their own environment. They are safe where they are. They're not in somebody's office. And I said, that's a valid point. That's an interesting point to make up. I've done a couple of them since then, but it's a little different in that sense because of how I've been trained with hypnotherapy. So in working with that, and even in doing journey work with shamanism, and doing shamanic journeying, it's changed because I feel, again, going back to that almost cliche now, a deeper connection.
Hmm.
And also I feel safer, if that's possible. We still need to have respect for stuff that's out there in the other world. but I still like to do the sacred protection around me when I'm doing work like this. But it's so far uh, engaging with me. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Do you have a sense that 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 your druidry or your studies or being on the path, that it grounds you more, so that
Yes.
that you're feeling much more secure, that you're
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. It's
okay.
much more grounded, and I feel that I can feel more level, and certainly, like you said, more grounded. Can't embellish on that much.
No. So speaking of grounded, which has nothing to do with grounded, I asked you, given that you just completed your bardic grade,
Uh-oh.
are
Is
you
this
a
a test?
poet? Yeah, it is a test. Yeah, in front of everybody now. So no pressure, no stress.
Yeah.
Um, about what are your bardic talents, poetry, and then you hummed and hawed and said, and then I asked you now just before we come on, and you said that you'd written one. So you've written one to order. So viewers, this is one that I accidentally commissioned, and he wrote one because we were talking yesterday, was it? Yeah, just doing a
Yeah.
check for this. So in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, Kevin has composed something. So like to hear it.
Okay. I just called it a triad for spring. So Imbok
Okay.
hints the beginnings of spring, snowdrops flowering, early morning bird song. Alban Elair conveys spring's balance, hints of renewed light, hope of coming warmth, equal day and equal night. Beltane, high spring proclaimed, throngs of radiant beauty and life, captivating 5, perhaps 6 senses. That's
Beautiful.
it.
Will you say that again now? Just
Yes.
please.
Okay. A triad for spring. Imbolc hints the beginnings of spring, snowdrops flowering, early morning bird song. Alban Elair conveys spring's balance, hints of renewed light, hope of coming warmth, equal day and equal night. Beltane, high spring proclaimed, throngs of radiant beauty and life, captivating 5, perhaps 6 senses.
Oh, lovely. There's beautiful triads. Nice comment.
Thank you.
Sounds like you need to go into the Pine Barrens up in Jersey. Someone says. I'm not too sure why.
Oh,
Anuvan is close there, and then Adrian says Adrian Pickett. She's in Australia.
oh,
She's up
Adrian.
here.
Hi, Adrian.
You know Adrian. No, she says
She's
hi,
been on the
Kevin.
show.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's why she's saying hello. And then Morgan says, "Isn't being a broadcaster the very definition of being a bard?" Yes and no. Yes and no. I think. I think a broadcaster maybe is a facilitator. I suppose you can be. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's not. It's not exclusive, but yeah.
That's kind of where I am, honestly. Because I think some of my bardic, I'd say, energies come through with doing the podcasting more so than broadcasting. Vicky told me, she joked with me one time when we first started going together over 20 years ago. She says, I'll tell you what, if you want to see this relationship continue, you need to stop being in radio. I said,
Why did she say that? I'm really interested in that. So
because
tell me.
because there's an anti Kevin that comes out. Anti Kevin in the sense of not AUNTI, but
Okay,
ANTI. But I can be very self-centered, very arrogant, and just full of myself. And that's not me. That's not who I truly am. I like to think of myself as living authentically, and I'm not trying to live something else. And that's a good reason. But I can
that's
also
what
say,
radio. Okay, that's what radio does to you.
yeah, yeah, it did. And if I were to go back to it, I'd probably be completely different now because I had been out of radio for a number of years, and I just needed some extra money. And I said, "Hey, I can do this." And I went back and I worked at a small radio station up in northern Maine for about, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. I was there, and I even back then, Eimear, it didn't fit me. And I can see where you would say a broadcaster. I don't know if Bardic would fit that, and I can see that, because there is a lot of stuff in there that you quote you have to do. I can remember I had to do a commercial because the
Yep.
person liked my voice. I hated, and I don't use that word.
Yeah.
I'll even color it a little bit and say I disliked it greatly. The commercial that I had to do, because I just disagreed with the philosophy of it. But in podcasting, I don't have to do that because it's my podcast. So,
I
so
think I think podcasts have been revolutionary in many, many ways
oh
because you
yeah.
know, you decide how long your thing
Hmm.
is. So I started off. I thought, oh, will I ever have any? Will I be able to have to chat to somebody for a whole hour? And then there was
Mm,
a state where they were going over 2 hours. I pulled back. We just do an hour now because I was getting exhausted. But the thing about podcasts is that you don't censor anything. It's like I don't censor what people say. There's no, what do we call this, watershed business. People
mhm.
are here to be who they are, and it's a conversation where within radio there are lots and lots of constraints, and often they tend to be more superficial. That you can have a better conversation. You
Yeah.
allow the person to maybe elaborate on something they're discussing rather than looking for sound bites. And that's the freedom of podcasts. And it's not just, I think that's just wonderful. And Liz says, podcast really having a moment now. Even conventional news is trying on the aesthetic, but failing
Thank
because they
you.
don't really get it.
Was that Liz? Was that Liz
Liz
Hills?
Hills. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Liz, I totally agree, and I will tell you this right now. It's one of the things that pulled me out of radio, out of broadcasting, because probably the lion's share of the work that I did in broadcasting was journalism,
Okay.
and I was dictated to about what I could put on the air and what I couldn't. I won't go into the detail of it, but I was asked by the station where I worked at the time was owned by a former NBC news correspondent, and
Okay.
I did an unveiling sort of news bit on a particular company locally, and he says, "That was brilliant journalism." I said, "Thank you." He says, "Pull it off the air." I said, "Why?" He says, "Because they're a major sponsor of our station." So it was money that said, "Oh, you can't do that." And now, I mean, with all the political humdrum and everything else, I try to stay away from it only because of all the negative nuances that are there. But if somebody wants to go make some statement against some politician or something, I don't edit it. I'm probably going to leave it. I had someone on not too long ago, but I won't go down that road. But yeah, and before I forget it, someone said about I need to go to the Pine Barrens. One of my teachers in primitive skills, he's been on my podcast as well. But uh, Mike has been on in my podcast, but he was taught through somebody needs to help me in the audience. John, he's the tracker. Um,
Oh yeah, I know.
yeah, good old John. But he's
John,
from the Pine.
who's okay.
Yeah,
So give me John's surname. Come on, because a student of his, I did a weekend on
mhm.
bird language here in
Yeah,
Ireland
yeah,
with my husband a
yeah.
few years ago.
Yeah,
Ah, okay, it's gone.
rats. Somebody will pick it up. Somebody hopefully will pick it up. But he wrote the tracker years and years and years ago. You could do a Google search on the
That's
tracker,
right. Yeah, yeah.
and but he did a wonderful job on that. But my teacher Mike Douglas, who has the Maine Primitive Skills School,
Tom
he
Brown
was
is his name.
thank
It's Tom
you,
Brown.
Tom
So it was
Brown,
a
not
student,
John. Yeah,
not John. I was going to say, oh, was Tom Brown his teacher? So Tom Brown, but the guy
yep,
who came here, I can't remember his name. He studied with Tom Brown, and I
yep.
have a gift. There's something I have here.
I've got a few of his books out on my bookshelves, and they're wonderful, wonderful books. They're very, very helpful.
I have a porcupine footprints.
Ah, Nice.
So this is
That's
from
great.
Maine. This is from
Yeah.
Maine. Yeah,
Oh, I'll
yeah,
bet.
okay.
Oh
Blessings
my
from
gosh.
Maine.
I'll bet whoever that was knows Mike Douglas. I will almost bet on it. And
Wow.
because Mike's been there, he has been doing
2009. 2009 we got this.
okay.
So
So
yeah.
yeah, Mike's school is up near Augusta. It's
Wow.
north central Maine. But yeah,
Brilliant.
it's it's quite a journey, and I love doing what I do. As far as all the different things, people have asked me, "Are you going to keep doing massage therapy?" And I will probably. I'm down to doing my happy place is probably doing 6 or 8 massages in the course of a week, and helicopter going overhead. Um, anyway, so that, and then I do continuing ed for massage therapists. But I love to teach, and I love the healing works, and I love the philosophy and all this sort of stuff. And when I see that, each grade has its own particular qualities to it, I think that's what makes us druids in the first place. Because, yesterday, last night, I wrote the triad, um,
Beautiful.
and then today I could, or the day before when I was out doing the ritual, I was the herbalist, and
Oh,
today I'm being a bard. I think
yeah.
so. It's a wonderful, wonderful. I love this joy. Joy. I love this journey. So yeah.
It's a wonderful journey. It's a wonderful journey. Just to go back to Nimi says the spoken word conveys an honesty and truth that can't be concealed. You can just hear the soul speaking. This is
Oh
through, and of course, this is live, so this can't be censored. And I think it's just what I like about these conversations is that even people. So I've never met you, and but even people I know that I meet at gatherings, and then I have them on as guests, and I discover things that I did not know about them. So it's I always find this is a space where it's an hour that's dedicated to this, talking about
yeah,
you, all about you, Kevin.
yeah,
It's really, really interesting to have that. And then I know that the viewers really, really enjoy them as well.
yeah.
So,
Well, you're talking about relationships. It's very special too because I'm working on. I'm gonna plug somebody. He's in
go
our
on.
group. He's in our hearth, but Michael Wilson.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, his book is in the is in our store. But Michael he's been on my program a couple of
Yeah.
times, and when we're talking about relationships, we're thousands of miles apart, and yet I can feel your presence. And I think that was one of the things too that made it interesting with doing Reiki and doing hypnotherapy, energy work, readings, anything like that. Energy doesn't know bounds like we do,
Hmm.
and you can go 1,000 miles like that, and you're there. You're just there. And it's so very, very special that way. So even though we have not physically met, Emer, I know you. I'm sure there's some other stuff I could learn, or even Adrian, who's watching. Adrian, love you to death. I hope you're enjoying the book. I sent her a copy of the book,
And I
but
haven't met Adrian, so we've communicated, but not I haven't. I don't think I've met her. Heard her
yeah.
music. We've
Oh
met
yeah,
online, but never as my daughter would say in real. So she's a beautiful musician, beautiful singer.
yeah. She is.
So
She is. But look at all the
and,
wonderful opportunities we have of different connections around the world. And we've talked about this in Tea with a Druid, that we have 50, 60, 75, 100, 200 people. And yet I feel like when you do it, and when anyone that's facilitating that, Emer, that when we do our meditation, I can feel that fire. I can hear the fire. I can smell the smoke, and I can feel the
yeah.
trees. It's all there, and it's all so real and so wonderful. But that's what I like to convey when I'm working with folks.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting, pre-COVID, I would have said, as because I'm a psychologist, now a retired one, but I would have said, no, you can't be doing therapy online or even the notion of a ritual. But then circumstances forced us into that. And my installation ceremony was done, virtually. It was
Yeah.
pre-recorded, and we had to work. We're working for weeks on sending recordings back and forth. But for me, having that sitting in my sitting room, feeling the mantle handed over to me was really, really powerful. And people might criticize and say it can't be real, but it is, because our part of our work is about developing our inner life and our own inner world and doing things on the inner plane. And that's what happened. So when COVID happened and being able to hold ceremony that's very powerful. I will not say it's better than the real thing. No, it has its place. And it's and I'm clients, it's interesting, when you say hypnosis works because people feel safer in their own home. Then there are people who are not safe in their own home, and they are safe in a neutral place. So who knows why it works? But it's just an interesting one. It's just nice to be able to have both that there is the capability of meeting virtually. I think that's really, meetings, conferences, all sorts of things. The fact that you and I are having this conversation, I think is really, really powerful that we have that technology. And then, like you say, you were out in the park and you found your herb. You can't do that virtually.
No.
There's something about the tangible that is really, really important and very, very powerful. Juniper said, ritual is real and carries its own power. Institutions instill within us things that are non-didactic or non-scientific. There is a power in this that the modern world has walked away from largely. It was a pleasure to listen to watch. Thank you for an interesting conversation. That's from Janine. And then Cara Sue says, I usually perceive myself in a different body as a different person or species when I meditate or go under hypnosis. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And hypnosis is that really, really deep state of relaxation that opens you up. And then she says, I can't go into meditative state without covering my head in blankets. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Some need music, some need a drum, some can't stand a drum. It's about finding what is it that helps you get into an altered state of consciousness, because then that frees you up and opens you up in a way.
That's another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
A wonderful rabbit hole. A very interesting rabbit hole. Love those.
Anyway, we've come to the end of our time. And Nimi says you're going to love the ovate grade, Kevin, which you will, because you've done a lot of it anyway. It's that. I struggled during the bardic grade because I was doing ovate stuff. I was, shamanic therapy, herbalism, Reiki. I was an anthropologist. And I thought, no, I'm not a bard. I'm not a bard. I'm not a bard. And my husband was just spitting out poetry to beat the band. And it wasn't until I'd handed in, after 6 years, handed in my bardic review, I started telling stories. And sorry, Karis, you're a they them. Apologies. I started telling stories, and then I took up the harp in my ovate grade. So it's never it's not linear. It's very much like a triple spiral, in and out, in and out, in and out, and it's just lovely.
That's the beauty of it. Can I share my contact stuff?
Sure. Oh yes, please. I'm going to type it in. So
sure. Yes. So the website is the same as the podcast. I made life somewhat simple, but it's just simply towardabetter.life.com. And
toward better life.com.
And then if people want to reach out to me, it's just Kevin at towardabetter.life.com is the easiest thing.
Kevin at towardabetter.life.com.
And of course, the podcast is always
Toward a Better Life.
Yeah, it comes up every Thursday.
Okay.
And I like, and for any of you too, and Adrian knows this, but if anyone is musically inclined, there are storytellers, if they are doing prose, if they are doing anything like that, please, 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 please send it to me, because I love sharing that on my program. I really do, because it's a joy to hear someone else's joy, really. and it's
Brilliant.
just exciting. So, and I remember the story that you shared, Eimear, when you came on. So yeah,
What was that?
storytelling
I
is
don't
wonderful.
remember it.
You're gonna put me on the spot now. Oh
How
wait,
much?
wait! I can't give you the name, but it was the fellow that um he wanted. Oh gosh, he wanted something. Oh, so he had all the riches. It was a king. He had all the riches possible that were there, but he wanted more. And there was a gentleman that came along and said,
Ah, yes,
"Th-
Cormac
th-
McCart.
Thank
Okay.
you." I knew if I went long enough, you'd get it.
Yeah,
But
brilliant,
I love
brilliant.
storytelling, and I remember when Vicky and I first got together, I would just start telling a story, and I told her that, and Eimear, I wrote it down. I haven't published it because it's just there, but it just kind of runs in my head, and I just let it go. So yeah, yeah.
So it's been such a joy talking to you, Kevin. So
Thank you.
I will just let you say goodbye to everybody.
And I wish you all so much health and wellness and beauty. And I would tell you, like I would tell many people before, always listen to your hearts and spirit because they will never let you down. And the soul is the eternal part of us that listens to our spirit. So listen to your hearts and souls. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's such a pleasure. And thank you, Eimear, for having the opportunity.
Lovely. So I'll just send you to the green room. Don't go away. We can have a look at the comments. Okay. So I'll
Okay.
just say goodbye to everybody. Sorry, do you know who Florida Man is?
Oh, wow. Yes, I do.
Okay, there was mentions early on in the chat, and it was too much. And then
He's
Sean
he's
Calvin says, stay clear
quite
of Florida Man and keep up the good work. Thank you.
okay. Yeah. Yes, I do know who a Florida man is.
Okay. Well, take note. Stay clear. All right.
Yep.
I'll see you in a few minutes.
Okay.
So I hope you enjoyed our conversation this evening, this afternoon, or this morning, wherever you are, or if you're watching a recording of this chat. So again, lovely to have your comments. I couldn't look at them all. Sometimes they come too fast. But I look forward to seeing you next week for another fireside chat. And in the meantime, be well and be safe. And we're still in kind of equinox time. It's only the 26th of March. So I hope you're planting seeds or some kind of spring is coming to you. And in the meantime, be well. So, Iwa, Slán go fóill.